We look live. It was just kidding. It gave us a message saying it couldn't connect, but now it's telling us we're live, so...
Hello.
Hi.
So welcome to Okay to Be Broken. We are going to be doing these videos regularly, every day or every other day, as we mentioned. So we want to make sure that we post something every day about grief or self-development or our journeys or other people's journeys as it pertains to grief. So we have had some comments on some of our videos, and we talked about one of them yesterday, and we kind of wanted to touch base on some other comments that we've received from videos that we've posted. And there's also something that when we were doing our surveys and speaking to people individually, like, it came up as well. And that is grieving the loss of our ability to do what we once were able to do. So grieving our mobility, grieving the loss of
Independence.
Right.
Yeah, and having to rely on other people to do things for us.
Mm-hmm.
And the comment was specifically related to age, that over time you're just not able to do the things that you used to be able to
Mm-hmm.
do. So not having as much energy as you once used
Mm-hmm.
to have, and just not having the same, I suppose, energy.
Well, energy or even capability. Because as we mature in age, our bodies change, and our ability to do certain things and that we were able to do at 20 years old, we're no longer able to do at 70, 80, and some people even younger than that, in their 40s or 50s, they begin to not be able to do some of the same things that they did when they were 20 years old. For other individuals, like somebody that we were speaking with when we were doing our surveys, for him, it was a severe injury that caused him to lose his mobility. And he had explained to us that for him, losing his mobility was a greater grief than having lost his parents. Because for him, his parents, he had indicated that it wasn't a gentle death. There was a lot of suffering and it was prolonged. And when they did pass, he was happy for them and he was relieved. So it was a different sense of grief. And he had grieved his parents, kind of like in the video we discussed yesterday, throughout the process of them ending up at their last day of life. But when it came to his mobility, and then losing that and having to redefine himself as a person based on what he now could do, like you were saying, relying on other people to help, because he said he was used to doing everything himself. He never had to rely on anyone to help for anything. And falling into those things where I guess it brings up some shame. It could bring up shame. It could bring up regret. It could bring up, we talked about a couple of different things earlier, but I think it all kind of falls into the shame thing of not being able to do something yourself anymore. And so it kind of mirrors or reflects, I think, a very similar, I guess it's very similar to the comments that we've received on the video, in that when you lose your mobility, either through maturing of age or through an accident or through well, I don't know that there's
an injury.
It's something that I don't think a lot of us think about, but when you do have to adjust yourself to a new way of being, adjust yourself to how people would treat you differently as well, or your circles change. People that maybe, as an example, you have an injury and you're no longer able to um, play ball. And that's something that you did every week with other ball player enthusiasts, and now you can't do that anymore. You may lose contact with much of those people or many of those people because you're no longer involved in the same capacity. So there's a lot of different layers that can come into play when we're talking about loss of mobility. And so it's just something to think about. Like what we've mentioned are just a few things that we've heard through people that we've spoken with, like through some of my clients, through individuals that we've spoken with when we were doing the surveys, or through the stories that you guys have shared. We certainly have our own share of mobility things that come up as we mature in age as well. And so we find ourselves having those conversations of, I remember when I used to be able to do this. And there is a sorrowfulness in there, or a mourning in there, and a grieving of no longer being able to do those things. And so we talk about it, and we're lucky that we have each other, and we have some friendships as well that we share with others, that we are able to discuss some of these things. But not everybody has that, and so it makes it a little bit more challenging, I think, when you don't have that support.
Mm-hmm. And one thing I found, I had problems with my neck a few years ago, and it really did affect my mobility at the time quite a bit. I had to stop working, and I'm very fortunate in that it was a temporary situation. So I don't want to draw the parallel between a temporary situation and what happens as a gradual part of the aging process. But what really struck me was how profoundly I had to reassess where my sense of personal worth came from and what actually made me valuable. And it was a very, very deep-seated questioning that came up for me, and I would imagine has come up for other people as well, and does come up as we age and continue to have to find a different value for ourselves within ourselves, because our society does not tend to value those with mobility issues and those who are aging. It's just not something that we've evolved enough to be able to value those segments of our population that really have so much to offer. And people don't lose their value with their mobility. And I think that that's a big piece of coming to terms with things as they change, is trying to figure out that for ourselves internally.
Yeah, and that can be tricky, because when you start questioning your self-worth or your value, there's a whole lot of shame triggers that get hit along the way. And so not only are you questioning yourself, but you're also coming up against that shame, which is trying to reinforce what you're trying to, I guess, clarify for yourself, which is your self-worth. So the biggest shame epidemic that we have, which if you've know of Brené Brown, she speaks of quite often, and it all boils down to ultimately not being enough. So when we're sitting there like you were, and I have, and I'm sure many of you have as well throughout your lifetime, sitting there questioning your self-worth, that definitely comes into play. And any little thing that would have transpired throughout your lifetime that would have reinforced a shaming message that you're not enough, you kind of have to work through as well. So not only are you grieving certain things that you're no longer able to do, but you're also finding yourself in a very strong self-development phase as well, as it pertains to your own sense of worth, like you said, and redefining your sense of self. So finding a connection to your true authentic self. and being able to say, ultimately at the end of it, that, like you just mentioned, my mobility does not dictate my self-worth. So I'm sure there's a lot more that we could say, because there are so many layers to these topics that we're bringing up, and we're just hitting the surface generally. And we're hoping that we can engage more people in conversation. So if you have comments, or if you have experiences and whatnot that you'd like to share with us, feel free to comment on the videos themselves. If you don't want anybody to see what you're posting, send us a message. That way it's a private message, and we'll make sure that we reply to you there.
And again, thank you to those who have commented. We really value your input.
It is invaluable, and it also shows us, as I hope that people will start to see as we do more of these, that although we are all very, very different from one another, and we are all our own individual person, we also have a lot of things that we share in commonality. And we feel that commonality is what helps us create connection and community. And so that's part of why it is that we bring these things up, and why we want to talk about it, because we don't find that enough people talk about it, and they're very, very important things that need to be talked about. We're done with hiding. Death will happen. Grief is a big part of our life, and so is self-development. And so we're really happy that you're here and that you're joining us and moving with us on this journey, and we look forward to hearing more from you guys as well. One last little thing.
Little.
Okay,
well, it's not little.
So big thing is our website is finally ready. And there are some things still that we are working on, and we'll be adding some more content as we go along. But there's enough on the website that you can go and have a look to see what we're all about. And if you wanted to contact us through the website as well, you could do that. We have posted on our calendar our first, I think it's 4 events that are coming up. So we haven't put all of the details in yet, because we're still working out the details on a location. And once we have that, then we'll post the full details on there. But we do have our first Learn and Heal evening that is going to be coming up October. We also have our first open grief group that we will be running in October as well. Krista is going to be launching her first Tarot for Self-Development course as well in mid-October. And we also have our first 8-week group that we are launching, and the focus of that group will be on the death of a loved one. And so all of that is posted on our calendar, so you can...
And of course, we also have ongoing one-on-one support is available as well. If you're not comfortable in a group setting, or if you are not in the local area, we can provide Skype sessions for one-on-one support. And Tina does bilingual, so if French is more comfortable for you, then certainly she can help you out that way.
And so you can visit us at broken.com. And that is our website, and we're very proud to launch it. And stay tuned for more stuff coming up shortly as well. Any last words?
As usual, no. But thank you.
All right. Well, you guys have yourselves a great day, and we will chat tomorrow. Bye.
Bye-bye.